Have you ever had something to say and went silent? Have you ever stumbled through a conversation only to think later, that's what I should have said? Do you feel like there are times when your message gets lost in translation? Well, get ready to level up your communication skills, my friends. You are not alone, and we are going to talk about it. My name is Kathy Riley. I'm your host and communications expert with over 25 years in litigation and another 15 as an entrepreneur. Our goal here is to share tools, systems, techniques guaranteed to shift the way you connect with others. From mastering the art of a tough conversation to cultivating the mindset that screams confidence, you're going to learn how to break those bad habits. Today, we're going to cover how do we hold a conversation, especially as an introvert, when we've got nothing to say. When we've got nothing to say. It's funny, it takes me back to when I was newly entrepreneur. So I started my business, my first business in 2006. My daughter was born in 2005. And I launched a direct sales jewelry business in 2006. And I liked that business model and that idea because when it comes to jewelry, I'm part raccoon, so I love everything that sparkles. But all I had to do was put the jewelry out there. I didn't have to sell. I didn't have to tell you, how are you going to use these earrings to do X, Y, and Z, right? What are you going to do with that necklace? Women, if you're attracted to jewelry, you're going to love these pieces of jewelry. So that's what I did. And as I was growing my business, I knew I had to network. I had to get out there and I had to talk to people. I had to talk to people. And that was one of the hardest things. It truly was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. True story here. The first year I was doing these direct sales events with the jewelry, I would put all the jewelry out. I would hang back in the kitchen with the hostess, the one who's getting all of the perks from the sales. And I would sit there and I would have a glass or two of wine before I got the courage to go out to the jewelry and talk to people. That's how awful it was for me to talk to other people. But the more I did it, the easier it got. Then I realized I didn't really need the wine, right? That I could be stronger and confident. I could be confident in having conversations. So here I am. It's about 2000. I want to say, so I started in six. I'm going to say it's about 2009. And I was invited by a fellow entrepreneur to attend this chamber event. So it's the Chamber of Commerce, and these events are pretty well attended. We're talking like 50 to 100 people in a room. And I remember the first time she invited me, I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll go. And I got partway there and I turned around because my itty bitty shitty committee kicked in and I was like, I don't feel good. This isn't good. And so the second time I was like, all right, I've just got to do this. I've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and I just got to do it. So I remember walking in to this place and there's just tons of people, more people than I've ever saw an event other than a wedding. And I was like, oh, great, googly moogly, what am I going to do? And thank the Lord, Miss Ann saw me from across the room and she came over and she put her arm in my arm. We took a breath and she's like, first time here, right? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, I'll take care of you. So she got me, we walked over to the bar, got myself a glass of wine, because she knew, she could tell by my body, by my tonality, the way my eyes were big. I was like, she could tell I was scared. She goes, let's calm your nerves for a minute. So then we were talking, I was sipping on my wine. And then she proceeded to introduce me to a couple people. And I made it a lot harder than it needed to be. And I think oftentimes as humans and as introverts, we make things harder than it really needs to be. And communication is complex. Yes, it is absolutely 100% complex. But it's not, we make it harder than it needs to be. So here's the tools to make conversations easy, to make it flow, to take the pressure off yourself. And that is having a list of questions ready to rock and roll for any given situation, right? People love to talk. And when you get them rolling, the conversation gets rolling. So if you are a good question asker, you're going to be able to control that conversation and keep it going. So to think about, there's three categories when you're looking at a human, right? There's family, there's work, and fun. So if we let's not make this too complex for you guys. Think about a human in three categories: family, work, fun. So family, who lives under their roof? Now they could be married, they could have kids, they could be living with mom and dad, right? They could have an apartment, they could be by themselves, they could be with roommates, they could have a pet, right? That's under their roof. Think about who is under their roof. Those are good questions to ask. Anything under that roof, anything that has to do with family. Second category is work. We, especially in America, we work our took us off. So we think a lot about work. Those are great questions. Ask about work. How's it going? What's challenges? All that kind of stuff. And then third category is fun. What people need to do something for fun. It could be as simple as reading a book, but people have fun. They bring fun into their world all the time. So if you look at an individual and remember, okay, family, work, fun, then you can ask questions around those. So let's talk about what are some of the questions that you can ask around family. It's like, hey, how's the family? Something so simple. How's the family? When it comes to family, it's like, where are you living now? Where are you? I live in Colorado. Okay. Living in Colorado, half of us are not natives. So it's always a good question to have is, are you a native? Do you live, okay, in Colorado? You originally from here? Where are you from? Because there's so many things. Oh, I'm a Midwestern person. Oh, you're a Midwestern person too. Awesome. Don't you miss blah, blah, blah. So you can use that. Okay. When it comes to work, how's work going? What's going on with work? And what have you done that is fun? What are you celebrating? So one of the basic questions I love to ask, and I ask everyone regardless of the situation, is so these are just like in the general rules, is what are you celebrating today? What's something good that's happened, today, this week, this month? What are you celebrating? As humans, we often focus on the things that go wrong. And I'm sure you're nodding your head at this. Uh-huh. We do. You can do 10 things wrong. I'm sorry, 10 things right, one thing wrong, and you're going to focus on the thing that went wrong. You really, really are. Our brains are wired that way. So to ask, what are you celebrating? It might take them a minute to think about, what am I celebrating today? It could be something simple as good health, right? What are you celebrating today? Get them to think about it. And then you're going to have a conversation about celebrating them. And humans, we may not always remember what other people say, but we do remember how other people make us feel. And if you can bring joy to someone else's world, you will be remembered in a very, very good way. So what are you celebrating? What's inspiring you right now? Right? What's inspiring you? What's making you laugh? What's bringing you joy? It could be something on TikTok, right? Following an individual on TikTok. You can ask, what's the best part of your day? I know. Honestly, being here with me is the best part of your day. But before that, what was the best part of your day? When you think of fun and joy, it's like, what's a great movie? Have you seen a great movie recently? What did you enjoy about it? Why was it? A book? Did you read a good book? What's a great book that you've read? And why did you love it? Those are great questions to ask just generally, right? In any given situation. Now, when you focus on work and asking them about work, you can say things like, what's a goal that you guys are working on? I'm really, really curious. Do you have a big big goal that you're working on? What's a recent project you've had? Depending on their business and what it looks like. You can talk about projects, you can talk about a goal, you can talk about a contract, you can talk about a location, right? What do they have going on at work? And ask about that. And if it's, especially if they're an entrepreneur or they're very cultivated in their business, how did you get started in that? That's always a great, great question. How did you get started? How long have you been there? Um, and and if you want to get really, really curious with them, it's like, what's the skill you've been looking to learn? Is there anything you're going out there to try to do? For me personally, it was I got to figure out. I want to learn how to podcast, so I'm learning a lot right now. I've launched and I'm adjusted. So learning about podcasting, people, what are you learning? What do you want to learn? What's a skill you want to bring to the table next year, next quarter? And what's the biggest challenge? This is a great question when you're networking and you're dealing with entrepreneurs is what's your biggest challenge or struggle right now? And how do you see yourself overcoming it? What's one thing you can do to bring to the table to overcome it? What I love about that question is I can also learn, is there a way that I can help them overcome that challenge? That problem, that situation. What can I bring to the table? So then there's some fun questions you can always ask. Like, we could talk about food. Who doesn't like talking about food? What's your favorite meal? What's your favorite food right now? What's your favorite snack? Oh, have you been to this restaurant? Is there a favorite restaurant that you have right now? Talk about food. It's lighthearted, it's simple. Um, if you're very passionate for Mexican food, what's your favorite Mexican restaurant? I'm really looking for that. There was a while there that I was looking for a really good steak restaurant. There was one that I was going to for years, and it's kind of went downhill recently in the last 3 years. So I always ask, what's a good steak restaurant? What are you loving, and why do you love it? What's so juicy and good about it? Um, Talk about it. Ask them like a concert, a book, travel. Have you done any traveling? Where would you like to go? So you can these are great questions that keep things lighthearted and simple. How about a hobby? What's your hobby right now? What are you doing? What are you doing for fun? Right? Working out. I spent every day, well, every week, once a week, twice a week, I was down seeing my horse. And I can't tell you, that was one question a lot of people asked me was, how's the horse? How's the horse? It's a great question because then you get me, even as an introvert, you ask me a question about my horse, man. We're talking for at least another 15 minutes about Bojo and all the wonderful things about him. So those are great questions. Think about a hobby, what they have. Now, the switching gears, let's say you're at a family reunion, right? And you are seeing these people that you haven't seen in forever, right? Uncle John, you haven't talked to him in 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is. You can think about childhood memories, talk about shared memories that you've had, going to so and so's house, being at the park, the annual 4th of July event, whatever it is. Think about your past and things that make you smile and ask questions about that. So those are great with family. And when you're dealing with how's the family doing? How's everybody? How many kids do you have now? How many grandchildren do you have now? Where are they living? Again, go back to that family category and you could ask questions about that. Where they are, where they're living, how they're doing, what are they working on, right? Where are they working? So dealing with your family, you can again hit all of those questions. And what are they celebrating? Right? What are they doing for fun? Have you done any traveling? What's a good book? Again, all of those categories hits there. And if you're somebody who is a bit empathetic, right, and you're really tied into more of a spiritual, emotional connection, you can go deeper and ask questions like, what's motivating you right now? What are you grateful for? What's one thing you're doing right now to unwind? Because we're all stressful. We're all stressed. So you can ask that question. Switching gears again, if you're at an event, a great question is like, how did you hear about this event? Who invited you? How do you know the host? You know, why did you come to this event? What's your intention and your goal for here tonight? Is there anybody you want to meet? That's a great question. Is there anybody here that you want to meet? Because maybe you know them and you can introduce them, and then you're a hero, right? So having those questions. Remember, there's so many others. So start a journal. If you are somebody that struggles with this, start a journal and just think about what are all the questions that I can ask. And then have a top five questions that you can have in your back pocket in any given situation that you can pull out. You can pull out and continue the conversation, even if you switch gears. Who cares if you switch gears on them? That's fun. And as you're asking questions, listen. Okay, so questions are great. Questions are the most powerful tool to keep a conversation going. Then listen. Actively listen to what they're talking about, because their responses are going to springboard the next question, then the conversation, right? Their responses. And be really, really curious about what they're talking about, right? Be authentically curious. And then that's just going to allow for the questions to naturally come, because you want to know more about that. They're talking about a travel. They're talking about restaurant. They're talking about a food, a book, a movie. You can then tell me a little bit. Why is that your favorite right now? What did you like about it? And listen. And the last thing I will say is, don't rush the conversation. We're, as humans, especially as introverts, we worry about the silence. We worry about the silence and we get uncomfortable. And it's like, oh, snap, I need to say something. I need to say something. What am I going to say? What am I going to say? But the reality is, oftentimes there's silence because people are processing information. They're getting ready to respond. They just need to think about it a little bit and get their thoughts in order to share something of value. And so feel free to embrace the silence. And I also love the silence because as I'm meeting with people and interviewing, it gives them a chance to that they're going to feel like, okay, now I got to say something. Maybe now I'm going to ask a question. Silence is golden, right? And it allows you to really manage the conversation is when you get comfortable with the silence. Allow it to be. Okay, so we're going to recap here. Hopefully you guys found this really, really helpful, because I got to tell you, this was a game changer. My husband, Prince Charming, I tell you, that man could talk to anybody, anywhere, anyhow, anytime, whatever. And that was one of the first things that I saw about him that I thought was so charming. I was like, wow. I mean, I want to be more like that. I really, really do. And he and I have had lots of questions and conversations about what it is. And he was one of the first people to tell me about having these questions in your back pocket. Especially living in Colorado. It's like, are you a native? Yeah, where are you from? So having a handful of questions is so, so, so powerful. So let's recap here, my friends. Let's recap. Okay, 3 categories. Let's keep it simple. Keep it simple. 3 categories: family, work, and fun, right? Every human out there, unless they're a little kid, right? They don't have work, but they still have family and fun. But every human has family, work, and fun. You can ask questions on that, right? Have 5 questions, 5 questions that you know are going to work. 5 questions that you can use in any given situation. 5 questions. And listen, listen intently, listen actively, use their words, and authentically follow up the conversation with questions. Be curious. Be curious. Ask questions and learn more about whatever they're talking about. And then at the end of the day, don't rush. Don't rush. Silence is good. Silence is golden. It is okay. Get used to the silence. And so that's short and sweet. That's a wrap, my friends, for today's episode of Breaking Bad Communication. Seriously, thank you for being here and tuning in. Before we sign off, don't forget to subscribe. And if you like what you heard today and it resonates, feel free to share it with your friends, repost it, put it out on social media. Know this, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your communication. And as you head back out into the world, with the holidays approaching and all that goodness, remember that every conversation is your chance to reshape your life and the lives of others. Whether it's a tough conversation, casual chat, or a talk at work, be clear, be intentional, and listen like it matters. The better you communicate, the more your life aligns with what you truly want. So go out there, own your voice, and make your words count. Giddy up.